Greetings, fellow cultivators. Welcome to Autonova. Remember to like and subscribe to support the journey. Now, let's dive into the next chapter of A Will Eternal. Conversations erupted on the Bloodstream sect side. One shocking event after another had played out on this day, leaving the entire sect completely shaken. The Blood Devil had appeared, and one of the Patriarchs turned out to be a spy. Such things could not simply be swept under the rug, and the whole sect was left feeling blank, and even humiliated. The Arch-Patriarch had a bitter look on his face. Gritting his teeth, he looked over at the Spirit Stream sect's founding patriarch, and then at the unconscious Bai Xiaochun. Within moments, the two sects would either be fighting or joining forces. The Arch-Patriarch was silent for a moment, but then suddenly, his ears suddenly twitched, almost as if some other being were speaking directly to him. His expression flickered, and then became one of complete determination. The Profound Stream sect tried to sow disharmony between our sects, with the goal of getting us to slaughter each other. Not only did they murder fellow Taoist Drought Flame, they tried to kill one of our Bloodmasters. We cannot tolerate such things. When the Bloodstream sect goes to war, we don't return home until blood has been spilled. Therefore, the best thing to do is go wipe out the Profound Stream sect. As his words reached the hearts and minds of the Bloodstream sect disciples, their confusion was quickly replaced with fury. I vow to wipe out the Profound Stream sect. Let's get revenge for Patriarch Drought Flame. As their new goals came to be fixed in their hearts, their eyes shone, and they even swore oaths. The words of the Arch-Patriarch instantly caused their blood to boil, and their killing intent to seethe. The blood clouds began to churn, and the blood seas grew even mightier as the Bloodstream sect army began to fly off into the distance. The blood giants howled, and the blood-colored battleships sprang into motion. The ground rumbled as countless outer sect disciples flew into the air like locusts to become enormous spheres. The Bloodstream sect patriarchs spun and flew up into the blood clouds. After a moment of silence, the Spirit Stream sect's founding patriarch looked around at the other members of the sect, and could see the determination in their eyes. With a glance at a certain location in the Luokan Mountains that no one had been paying attention to, he listened to a voice speaking in his head for a moment, after which he gritted his teeth. The Profound Stream sect interfered with the affairs of our two clans, and even tried to kill our junior patriarch. For that, they must die. With that, he waved his right hand. Spirit Stream sect, the time has come to wipe out the Profound Stream sect. Rumbling sounds filled heaven and earth. Killing intent surged, and the light of spell formations climbed into the sky. The giants began to speed off into the distance, and the white sun overhead caused the sky to shake. Many people couldn't help but take a moment to look over at Bai Xiaochun, the founding patriarch included. After gazing for a moment at him lying unconscious in the crater, they shot off to join the Bloodstream sect on the continent that was the location of the Profound Stream sect. A war was about to be fought the likes of which had not been seen in the eastern lower reaches of the cultivation world for 10,000 years. Apparently, a new sect was on the rise, like the dawn sun, shining with countless beams of glorious light, interspersed with blood and death. The main forces left, but a small contingent from each sect remained in the Luokan Mountains, including Patriarch Ironwood and the Song clan patriarch. Of course, their reason for staying behind was Bai Xiaochun. Bai Xiaochun was of vast importance to both sects, and neither would feel comfortable leaving him in the care of the other sect. As Master Thousand Faces had made clear, Bai Xiaochun was also a major weakness for the two sects. As long as he lived, everything could proceed smoothly. But if he died, the connection between the two sects would be lost, and too many bad things could happen. Naturally, Hu Xiaomei refused to leave Bai Xiaochun's side. She had long since noticed Song Junwan, and her intuition immediately told her that something was going on between her and Bai Xiaochun. Song Junwan also refused to leave. The sight of the unconscious Bai Xiaochun filled her with pain, as well as other indescribable emotions. And thus, time passed. The Luokan Mountains became quiet once again. The Bloodstream sect and the Spirit Stream sect set up two camps right next to each other in the Luokan Mountains. Directly in the middle of the two camps was an immortals cave, which was kept under tight guard. Even the two patriarchs watched over the area to make sure that no accidents occurred. Inside the immortals cave, Bai Xiaochun lay unconscious. Every day, Hu Xiaomei and Song Junwan would appear to accompany him. As time went by, Hu Xiaomei became increasingly convinced that something was going on between Bai Xiaochun and Song Junwan. As for Song Junwan, she could obviously tell that Hu Xiaomei had a relationship of some kind with Bai Xiaochun. Soon, the cultivators from both sects came to sense the killing spirit that existed between the two women. Eventually, they even came to hear the two of them arguing loudly over the unconscious Bai Xiaochun. When that happened, sympathy rose up in the hearts of all of the cultivators. More time passed. A month later, Bai Xiaochun's breathing had grown steady. Thanks to the inner workings of the undying live forever technique, he was slowly recovering. Coupled with the constant treatment of spirit medicines provided by the Bloodstream sect and the Spirit Stream sect, he was rapidly getting better. One afternoon, his cultivation base suddenly spun, and his eyes fluttered open. When he realized that he was alive, excitement surged in his heart. He thought back to everything that had occurred before he passed out, and his heart continued to pound with fear. If he hadn't pulled out his turtle walk at the last moment to defend himself, he would surely have been destroyed in body and soul. That drought flame is too vicious. Damn it, once I get strong enough, I'll definitely have to get revenge. Gnashing his teeth inwardly, he was just about to sit up when he suddenly realized that something seemed wrong. Turning his head slowly to the side, he saw Hu Xiaomei standing close by, her hands on her hips, looking very much like a hot chili pepper as she glared at Song Junwan, who stood opposite her, casual and yet confident. Perhaps because they were too focused on each other, they didn't notice that Bai Xiaochun had opened his eyes. At that point, Bai Xiaochun's pupils constricted. Something about the scene seemed very odd, so he quickly closed his eyes and then opened them again a moment later. When he confirmed that he wasn't hallucinating, his heart suddenly thumped, and he began to feel very nervous. That was when Hu Xiaomei began to speak. "What are you doing here again, old Aunt Song?" she said, glaring. "You're getting pretty old, shouldn't you be in a retirement home or something? Why don't you hobble off and take a nap? I can take care of Big Bro Xiaochun by myself." Song Junwan's phoenix-like eyes widened into a glare. Looking more regal than ever, she decided to put Hu Xiaomei in her place. "Look girl, I know that you're too young to understand the relationship between me and your Uncle Xiaochun. Considering that you're Night Crypt's niece, I probably ought to give you a good slap upside the face." Hu Xiaomei snorted. "You're the niece. Your whole family are all nieces. Me and Big Bro Xiaochun are the perfect match. We're childhood friends, and we liked each other from the moment we joined the sect. In fact, it was only with Big Bro Xiaochun's help that I was able to get into the outer sect." This was not the first time the two of them had argued with each other. Such heated interchanges occurred on almost a daily basis. Even despite Song Junwan's control over her own temper, she had almost killed Hu Xiaomei on multiple occasions. However, considering the plans to join the two sects together, and Bai Xiaochun's role in that, she managed to hold back. Bai Xiaochun licked his lips, and then, considering how murderous the two women looked, quickly closed his eyes and pretended to be unconscious. However, he soon realized that something seemed even more wrong than before. Everything was too quiet. The quiet got him even more nervous, and when he listened carefully, it caused his scalp to tingle. In addition to his own breathing, he could clearly hear two other people breathing, and very close to him at that. Beads of sweat popped out on his forehead. Pretending as if he were just waking up, he slowly opened his eyes and looked around in confusion. The first thing he saw were two faces as beautiful as flowers. One seemed mature, the other young and inexperienced. One was spectacularly elegant, the other was sweet and pure. "Good morning," he said nervously, blinking a few times. Song Junwan suddenly smiled, and her gaze softened. Reaching out, she placed her hand onto his forehead to feel his temperature. "Eyes as deep as pools of water," she softly said, "don't be scared. You were just pretending to be unconscious, that's all. Now tell your big sis how many days you were faking." Bai Xiaochun swallowed hard and then said, "I." However, before he could finish speaking, Hu Xiaomei swatted Song Junwan's hand aside and stepped forward to stand next to Bai Xiaochun. Glaring angrily at Song Junwan, she said, "What do you think you're doing? Big Bro Xiaochun is very pure and innocent. How could he possibly have been pretending to be unconscious?" Almost as soon as the words left her mouth, she looked suspiciously over at Bai Xiaochun, lowered her voice, and said, "Big Bro Xiaochun, you've been corrupted. Pretending to be unconscious is wrong." More sweat popped out on his forehead. Being around these two women made it feel like needles were pricking into his back. After rolling her eyes, Song Junwan coolly said, "Night Crypt, I'd like to speak with you alone. You owe me an explanation." "Big Bro Xiaochun, I also want to speak with you alone," Hu Xiaomei said, not willing to be outdone by Song Junwan in any way. Bai Xiaochun was struck speechless. The two women glared at each other angrily, then turned to him to see what decision he would make. Taking a deep breath, he put a very somber expression on his face. "Very well," he said, deepening his voice. Hu Xiaomei had never seen Bai Xiaochun speak in such a way, or seen such an expression on his face. She was shocked, and suddenly realized that this version of her big bro Xiaochun was even more attractive than the old version. As for Song Junwan, her expression brightened. This was the night crypt she remembered. Tell me what happened between the two sects after I fell unconscious. And where are we now? In the Luokan Mountains, or somewhere else? Bai Xiaochun's new tactic seemed to work. Continuing to try to look as serious as possible, he listened to the events which had played out after he fell unconscious. The Bloodstream sect would never have agreed to let him go back to Fragrant Cloud Peak, and the Spirit Stream sect would never have agreed to let him return to Middle Peak. Therefore, the two sects had arranged for a contingent of cultivators to stand guard over him in the Luokan Mountains. The Song clan Patriarch and Patriarch Ironwood had even stayed behind to stand as Dharma protectors. Bai Xiaochun was moved. Then Song Junwan went on to explain what was happening on the front lines of the war. The Bloodstream sect and the Spirit Stream sect were currently attacking the Profound Stream sect. The Profound Stream sect was no match for such a huge army, and had suffered setback after setback. They had already lost about half of their territory. Bai Xiaochun was shaken by how seriously the two sects took him. Even if he had wanted to go to the fighting, the Patriarchs wouldn't have agreed. I guess it's my fault for being so outstanding. Fretting luxuriously, he decided that the best thing to do at the moment was refrain from requesting to be sent to the battlefield. That way, he could avoid giving them any pressure, and could also avoid a situation where they suddenly went crazy and agreed to let him fight. Whatever. I should probably give the Patriarchs a good excuse to refuse to let me go to the battlefield. My stomach suddenly hurts. I guess my wounds haven't healed all the way yet. Well, I'll just continue to recuperate for a bit longer. Having reached this point in his train of thought, Bai Xiaochun decided that he was a very considerate person. Clutching his stomach, he continued to pretend to feel ill. For the next several days, Bai Xiaochun continued to pretend to be unwell. Every so often, he would leave the Immortals' cave, look around at the world, and sigh deeply in his heart. I doubt there are many disciples such as myself who understand how things work. The Patriarchs don't want me going off to war, so I've taken the initiative to pretend to be injured. He shook his head slowly. In his mind, he really had grown up and come to understand the world a lot better. If Uncle Lee and my elder brother sect leader knew about this, they would definitely praise me. After some more thought, he realized that he shouldn't stay outside for too long, otherwise it might make his act seem unrealistic. Hu Xiaomei and Song Junwan hadn't come yet, so the best thing to do was go back inside to sleep. If they showed up, he would definitely get the short end of the stick. Every time he thought about Hu Xiaomei and Song Junwan, his heart trembled. Terrifying, he thought. The way they look at me, it's like they want to cut me in two pieces to share with each other. With that, he turned to hurry back inside. However, that was when Song Junwan came floating over. Bai Xiaochun's eyes went wide, and his heart began to pound. This isn't right. They never show up at this time. Turning his head nervously, he saw that Hu Xiaomei had also come. Taking a deep breath, he put a somber expression on his face and then, before they could get too close, loudly said, I have to go see the Patriarchs. Even as the words left his mouth, he blurred into motion, flying toward the Patriarchs at top speed. About halfway there, he suddenly realized that he was being careless. He quickly began to weave back and forth as wobbly as possible, as if he were having problems flying. Finally, he landed on the ground with a thud, then walked the rest of the way, panting as he went. In this part of the Luokan Mountains was a mountain with two peaks that jutted up, not very high, and not very far away from each other. This was where the Song clan Patriarch and Patriarch Ironwood were staying. As soon as Bai Xiaochun appeared, both patriarchs looked down at him from the mountain peaks above. Bai Xiaochun offers greetings, Patriarch, he said, clasping hands and bowing. Are your injuries getting any better? Patriarch Ironwood asked with an enigmatic smile. Just when Bai Xiaochun was about to respond, a cold snort echoed out from the Song clan Patriarch on the other mountain peak. As soon as Bai Xiaochun heard it, his heart trembled, and he sighed. Without hesitation, he offered formal greetings again. Night Crypt offers greetings, Father. The Song clan Patriarch smiled and said, I saw that you had some trouble flying on your way over here. You still haven't recovered yet? I'm better, he replied, feeling a bit guilty. He knew that he couldn't truly deceive the Patriarchs, so after some hesitation, he decided to push the envelope a bit and added, but I think there's still a bit that's not better. Patriarch Ironwood laughed and said, it doesn't matter. Since you're not fully recovered, just take some more time to rest. With that, he waved his hand, sending a medicinal pill bottle flying toward Bai Xiaochun. Bai Xiaochun caught it and blinked a few times. After opening it, he was instantly moved. Inside were Tier 4 medicinal pills with excellent medicinal efficacy. However, they weren't designed for treating injuries but rather to help increase one's cultivation base. The Song clan patriarch's eyebrows shot up, and then he waved his hand, sending 2 medicinal pill bottles flying out. Licking his lips, Bai Xiaochun grabbed them, then opened them. His eyes went wide. These bottles also contained Tier 4 medicines, but they were supreme grade, bordering on Tier 5. They were fairly bursting with blood qi, and would be of significant benefit to his undying live forever technique. Bai Xiaochun looked excitedly at the 2 patriarchs. They were definitely treating him very well. Obviously, they knew that his injuries had recovered, and in response, gave him spirit medicine to help improve his cultivation base. It seems I really have grown up, he thought. I was worried about the patriarchs, and here they are hinting for me to continue to pretend to feel unwell. Sighing, he clasped hands and bowed deeply. Patriarch, father, don't worry, you've done the right thing to trust me. Giving them a meaningful look, he turned and left. The Song clan patriarch chuckled, and Patriarch Ironwood smiled and shook his head. Although they wanted Bai Xiaochun to go to war, they were worried about his safety. Therefore, they wouldn't force him to make any decision he didn't want to. After returning to his immortals cave, Bai Xiaochun found that Hu Xiaomei and Song Junwan had left. Sighing in relief, he sat down cross-legged and began to work on his cultivation. He soon discovered that his cultivation base had already improved some compared to before he lost consciousness. Furthermore, his undying live forever technique had grown stronger. If things keep going like this, he thought excitedly, then late foundation establishment is right around the corner. Then he thought about how he had single-handedly stopped his 2 sects from going to war, and he felt very proud. However, just when he was about to pop one of the medicinal pills into his mouth, he suddenly heard Hu Xiaomei's voice coming from outside the immortals cave. Big bro Xiaochun, I cooked up some medicine for you. With that, the door of the immortals cave opened, and Hu Xiaomei entered, her face a bit flushed, a bowl of medicine held in her hands. The steam from the medicine caused Hu Xiaomei's face to be even more flushed than it might have been, and as soon as Bai Xiaochun saw her fair, pure features, his heart began to pound. But then, Song Junwan appeared right behind her, smiling broadly as she also brought in a bowl of medicine. The clothes she wore were different than what she usually wore back in the Bloodstream sect. They were more conservative, and yet, couldn't conceal her curvaceous form. Little bro Nightcrypt, I cooked up some medicine for you. The 2 women approached Bai Xiaochun, each one holding out a bowl of medicine. Song Junwan had a faint smile on her face, whereas Hu Xiaomei looked a bit shy. Bai Xiaochun's heart immediately began to pound, and even as he was cursing their treacherous ways, he realized that Song Junwan had uttered the exact same words as Hu Xiaomei. He couldn't stop his eyes from going wide. He looked left. He looked right. He hesitated. Finally, he decided that since Hu Xiaomei had come in first, that he might as well take her medicine first. With that he reached his hand out toward Hu Xiaomei's bowl. Hu Xiaomei's eyes instantly brightened with excitement, and she glanced furtively over at Song Junwan, looking very pleased with herself. When Song Junwan saw what was happening, she glared at Bai Xiaochun, and then gave a cold harumph. Instantly, an intense killing aura sprang up around her. Bai Xiaochun gasped, and quickly changed the direction his hand was moving, sending it toward Song Junwan's bowl. Before his hand could even touch the bowl, Hu Xiaomei's eyes turned red as if from grief. Trembling, tears welling up in her eyes, she said, Big bro Xiaochun, I spent all day cooking up that medicine. Bai Xiaochun felt bad, and without even thinking about it, yet again changed the direction his hand was moving. Nightcrypt, do you remember all the things you said to me on Middle Peak? Song Junwan said softly. Drink my bowl of medicine first. I believe that everything you said to me was true. Unswerving determination could be seen in her eyes. Apparently, if he didn't drink her medicine first, then she would instantly leave, and henceforth refuse to believe anything he told her. Bai Xiaochun's hand stopped in place, and he looked at the 2 bowls of medicine, feeling almost like he was going insane. Did they plan to come at the same time or something? He thought. Arrgghhh. He felt like he was about to collapse. Despite how much he'd grown up, he had never been in a situation like this, where no decision he made was the right one. Eyes bloodshot, he gritted his teeth, and then reached out and grabbed 1 bowl with each hand. Weeping inwardly, he somehow managed to start drinking from both bowls, being careful not to spill any of the burning hot medicine on himself. To drink from 2 medicine bowls at the same time felt very odd, but inside, Bai Xiaochun was sighing with relief, and couldn't help but marvel at how quickly he had adapted to the situation. This way, neither Hu Xiaomei nor Song Junwan would be able to find fault with him. However, after finishing the medicine, he realized that Song Junwan's killing aura was pulsing even more explosively than before. Glaring at him angrily, she spun and walked off. Hu Xiaomei looked completely heartbroken. Eyes flashing with bitter grief, she turned slowly and walked out of the immortals' cave. Bai Xiaochun watched in shock as the two women left. Grabbing his hair in both hands, he cried, "What? What did I do wrong? I drank them both. I didn't drink either one before the other." Scowling on the verge of tears, he stared at the closed door of the immortals' cave. "If things keep going like this, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm just gonna go into secluded meditation." Having made his decision, he gritted his teeth and sealed the door of his immortals' cave as tightly as was possible. Taking a deep breath, he sat down cross-legged and took some time to calm himself down. Then he opened the bottles of medicinal pills given to him by Patriarch Ironwood and the Song clan patriarch and began to meditate. Days passed. In the blink of an eye, half a month went by. During that time, Bai Xiaochun made constant progress in his cultivation. Bit by bit, he got closer to late foundation establishment. His fifth spiritual sea was now fully crystallized, and his sixth sea was halfway there. Once his sixth spiritual sea crystallized, then he would officially break through the peak of mid-foundation establishment and into the late stage. Furthermore, during his meditation session, the power of the medicines he'd consumed for the purpose of treating his injuries also helped push his cultivation base higher. Then there was the little turtle. Bai Xiaochun would take it out every day and give it a thorough shaking. The fragrant aroma emitted by the turtle would cause boundless streams of spiritual power to flow into him, further hastening the crystallization of his sixth spiritual sea. 60%, 70%, 80%, another half a month passed. One morning at dawn, rumbling sounds filled Bai Xiaochun as his sixth spiritual sea fully crystallized. Spiritual power that vastly surpassed anything from before flowed unceasingly through him, causing cracking sounds to fill the air around him. It was almost like a baptism. His heaven Dao aura grew stronger, such that strange colors flashed in the sky. Patriarch Ironwood and the Song clan patriarch noticed, as did other cultivators in the Luokan Mountains. All of them looked over in the direction of Bai Xiaochun's immortals' cave, where a boundless heaven Dao aura seemed to be connecting in the heavens above. Thunder rumbled, and a vortex appeared up above, spinning rapidly. Bai Xiaochun's eyes opened, and they glowed with brilliant, lightning-like light. His sixth spiritual sea was fully crystallized. Late foundation establishment. Bai Xiaochun's open eyes flashed with scintillating light, illuminating the darkness of the immortals' cave like flickering lightning. Intense cultivation base power surged through his body, not only causing a reaction in the sky overhead, but also causing fluctuations to pulse through his qi passageways. The energy flowed through him, making a complete cycle before fusing into his spiritual seas, vanishing into the sixth, crystallized sea. It was like a convergence of massive weight and power that propelled his cultivation base higher. Rumbling sounds filled him that only he could hear, shaking his mind and heart. It was almost like the tide flows he had experienced in the fallen sword abyss. Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath, reveling in the feeling of intense power that vastly exceeded anything from before. Late foundation establishment. Bai Xiaochun looked up and started laughing, excitement written across his face. As of this moment, all of his hard work in the foundation establishment stage had come to fruition. From now on, I, Bai Xiaochun, can easily crush anyone in early foundation establishment. If any early foundation establishment cultivator dares to provoke me, a slap from me will leave them screaming in pain. Trembling in excitement, he rose to his feet, and as he did, cracking sounds rang out as a third heavenly demon appeared behind him. Outside in the sky, the clouds swirled rapidly, and thunder crackled. Within the vortex up above, a heavenly demon appeared, and then a second, and finally, a third. 3 enormous heavenly demons were right out in the open for everyone to see, and it instantly caused the cultivators of the Spirit Stream sect who were garrisoned in the area to cry out in shock. What's that? Those look like Dharma idols. Heavens! What technique is sect Uncle Bai cultivating? Similar cries could be heard coming from the Bloodstream sect. Because of the techniques cultivated by Lesser Marsh Peak, the cultivators from the Bloodstream sect already had speculations about what they were seeing. That's a Lesser Marsh Peak body refinement technique. That's the heavenly demon body. Night Crypt definitely deserves to be the Bloodlord. Now that he's reached this level in his body refinement, he'll definitely proceed to the Bloodfiend level. On the 2 mountain peaks, the Song clan patriarch's eyes shone brightly, and Patriarch Ironwood's eyes glittered with mysterious light. Both of them were shaken by the heavenly demon incarnations they saw in the sky. After a moment passed, the Song clan patriarch said, my boy Nightcrypt's heavenly demon body is already quite different from lesser marsh peaks. A thoughtful look appeared on Patriarch Ironwood's face. The two of them exchanged a glance but didn't say anything else. Inside the Immortals' cave, Bai Xiaochun's excited laughter rang out as he felt his fleshly body power rising. He felt more blessed than ever. How could this be happening? The medicinal pills that Father and Patriarch Ironwood gave me shouldn't have pushed my cultivation all the way to this point. Unless my injuries stimulated some latent power inside of me. Ha ha ha, that must be it. Bai Xiaochun almost felt like dancing with joy. In his current state, he really felt incredibly powerful. Wait, hold on. I can't be arrogant, and I definitely have to keep working hard. Now that I'm in late foundation establishment, I have to crystallize my 7th through 9th spiritual Cs, and reach the great circle of foundation establishment. Then I can break through to the gold core stage. As he thought about the gold core stage, he began to pant, and his eyes shone with bright light. I heard that if you can reach the gold core stage, you'll get at least 500 additional years of longevity. 500 years. If I succeed, that means I'll be able to live for at least 1,000 years. His hands clenched into fists, and his eyes shone as if with madness. The idea of being able to live for 1,000 years filled him with so much excitement that he almost couldn't control himself. I also have the 2nd volume of the Undying Codex. I've finished the steps with the ancient mammoths and the berserk ghosts. Next is the heavenly demon body. Once I make enough heavenly demons, I can proceed to the Asura body. Once I'm finished with the Asura body, I can take the 2nd volume of the Undying Codex to the highest level, the Undying Heavenly King body. Slapping his chest confidently, he laughed loudly and prepared to leave his Immortals' cave to perform some tests and see exactly how powerful he had become. However, after having only taken a few steps toward the door, his face suddenly fell. Considering the level of his cultivation base, he was able to clearly detect that 2 beams of light were flying in his direction. They were none other than Song Junwan and Hu Xiaomei. Obviously, they had sensed Bai Xiaochun's cultivation base breakthrough, and realized that his session of secluded meditation was over. As soon as he thought about the terrifying things that happened when those 2 women showed up together, his face went pale, and his heart began to tremble. He suddenly slapped his chest, causing his face to turn ashen. He swayed in place a bit, pretending to be weak as he trudged out of his Immortals' cave. Song Junwan and Hu Xiaomei approached, and they were clearly preparing to say some sarcastic things, but then they saw his weak demeanor, and their faces fell. Forgetting all about their desire to get into a row, they flew over. What's wrong, big bro Xiaochun? Nightcrypt, what's wrong? Weren't things going well just now? Looking very worried, both women reached out to support Bai Xiaochun by the elbow as they led him back into the Immortals' cave to lay down on the stone bed. As they comforted him with soft, gentle words, he was reminded of how tender they had been in past times. Now that they weren't fighting or arguing, he could breathe a sigh of relief. He coughed a few times and then weakly said, "Perhaps toward the end my chi flow was interrupted. I just need some rest, and then I'll be fine." As the 2 women waited on him, he lay back and closed his eyes to rest. Hu Xiaomei and Song Junwan knew that Bai Xiaochun needed some peace and quiet, so they left silently. After they were gone, Bai Xiaochun opened his eyes and breathed a sigh of relief. Not much remained of the elation he had felt because of his cultivation base breakthrough, and now, his expression was twinged with anxiety. What do I do now? He thought, scowling at the seemingly unbearable situation. After a bit of consideration, he decided that the best thing to do was to continue to pretend to feel unwell. Time passed. Before long, half a month had gone by. He couldn't continue to pretend to be weak that entire time, so he gradually started to pretend to look better. As time passed, Song Junwan caught on to the fact that he was pretending to feel unwell. As for Hu Xiaomei, she was a simple girl, but she wasn't stupid. Even she started to suspect. When Bai Xiaochun realized that, he was so scared he started shaking. This kind of life was a torture, and by now, he was considering trying to go join the war effort. However, the thought of the deadly dangers of the battlefield caused him to hesitate. Whatever, I can hang on for a bit longer. Maybe I can think of some other way to deal with this. Tugging on his hair in frustration, he continued to ponder the situation. Finally, his expression suddenly changed, and he looked very depressed. Maintaining that look, he shuffled out of his Immortals' cave, whereupon Hu Xiaomei and Song Junwan arrived. Gaze soft and voice gentle, Hu Xiaomei said, "Big bro Xiaochun, it's not good to stay cooped up in your Immortals' cave. Let's go for a walk together, okay?" He replied hesitatingly. Smiling enigmatically, Song Junwan reached out to support Bai Xiaochun's left arm. Night Crypt, to cultivators like us, that type of injury is really nothing. Come on, let's go out into the Luokan Mountains for a bit. If you get your qi and blood moving, it will definitely speed your recovery. In turn, Hu Xiaomei glared and reached out to support his right arm. Bai Xiaochun gaped in shock. He didn't even get a chance to respond to either of them before they were leading him out of the Immortals' cave. After only a few steps, his feet actually left the ground. He felt like a death row inmate being dragged to his own execution as the two women stared daggers at each other across him. Beads of sweat popped out on his forehead, and he almost felt like crying. It was currently dawn, and a faint fog covered most of the Luokan Mountains. As the morning light grew stronger, the fog began to dissipate. It was a very beautiful scene. After being carried out of his Immortals' cave, quite a few cultivators from the two sects saw him, and looks of compassion appeared in their eyes as they hurried past the group of three. Bai Xiaochun opened his mouth to speak, but then closed it just as quickly. It didn't seem like a good time to talk. If he did, it would definitely lead to more headaches. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and decided that going for a bit of a walk wouldn't be so bad. Even as such thoughts passed through his head, a bird flew by overhead. It was bright red, and quite beautiful, and as it flew along, it let out a melodious cry. Song Junwan saw the bird, and looked surprised. Look, Night Crypt, a blood spirit heron. I never thought I would see one of the Bloodstream sect's blood spirit herons here. I used to love watching them flying around back on Middle Peak. Even as Bai Xiaochun looked up at the bird, Hu Xiaomei bristled with a killing aura and loudly said, Blood spirit heron? What are you talking about? That's obviously an iris petal ibis from the Spirit Stream sect. Song Junwan looked over angrily at Hu Xiaomei, who, unwilling to be outdone, stuck her chest out and glared back defiantly. Bai Xiaochun was stuck between them, sweating profusely. Things were reaching a point where he almost couldn't deal with the headache. That was when Song Junwan laughed charmingly, and looked at Bai Xiaochun with sparkling, mesmerizing eyes. Night Crypt, what do you think? Is that bird a blood spirit heron or an iris petal ibis? Not willing to be outdone, Hu Xiaomei grabbed Bai Xiaochun's arm. Looking completely heartbroken, she softly asked, Big bro Xiaochun, tell that old auntie that it's an iris petal ibis. Bai Xiaochun felt like his head was about to explode. Eyes widening, he looked up at the bird, feeling like he was about to go insane. The truth was that this bird actually had two names. In the Bloodstream sect, it was called a blood spirit heron, but in the Spirit Stream sect, it was known as an iris petal ibis. However, he wasn't sure which name to call it. That was especially true considering that killing intent was surging on both sides of him. He could almost feel the tears welling up in his eyes. How he hated that bird. Damn you, bird, he thought. Why did you have to show up here? Trembling, he looked at Song Junwan on his left, and Hu Xiaomei on his right. Both of them were staring at him with looks of anticipation on their faces. He could well imagine that whoever he sided with, the other would be deeply and profoundly grieved. Bai Xiaochun gritted his teeth and prepared to make up a new name. However, that was when Song Junwan suddenly said, Night Crypt, don't you dare try to pull a fast one by making up a new name. Big bro Xiaochun, Hu Xiaomei chimed in, you can't say you don't recognize it. I know you've seen those birds in the Spirit Stream sect before. It was a rare occasion. Hu Xiaomei and Song Junwan were siding with each other as they stared at Bai Xiaochun, deep emotions flickering in their eyes. Sweat dripped down Bai Xiaochun's face. By this point, he was in a state of complete despair. Back when they'd brought him medicine, he'd managed to pull a fast one, but as of this moment, that didn't seem possible. What do I do? He thought, his eyes glistening with tears. Based on how Song Junwan and Hu Xiaomei were pushing him, it was obvious that they didn't care at all what the bird was called, they just wanted him to choose between the two of them. Eyes bloodshot, he pointed up at the bird and howled, Fine. I'll tell you, that bird is it's A. Suddenly, he bit down on his tongue, and then unleashed his cultivation base power, allowing it to run wild within him. As it burst into his qi passageways, a sweet taste filled his mouth, and then he spat out a mouthful of blood. Then his vision started going dark, and he began to lapse into unconsciousness. In the last moment before he passed out, he sighed deeply. Song Junwan and Hu Xiaomei were completely shocked. Not only did they see Bai Xiaochun coughing up blood, considering that they were holding him up by the arms, they could sense that his cultivation base was in chaos. Hu Xiaomei looked like she was about to cry as she carried Bai Xiaochun back into the Immortals' cave. As for Song Junwan, she pulled out a huge collection of spirit medicines, which she began to push into his mouth. Some distance away on the two mountain peaks, the Song clan Patriarch and Patriarch Ironwood watched the scene play out, their eyes flickering with sympathy. The Song clan patriarch sighed and said, "Did the little brat really think getting involved with women could be so simple? I learned the truth of it years ago. With the flick of a sleeve, I detached myself from all impurities." In rare fashion, Patriarch Ironwood seemed to completely agree with him. Nodding, he said, "Love is tribulation. Years ago, I severed such tribulation. Actually, now that I think about it, I can't even remember the faces of those old flames from years ago." The two old men exchanged a look. For the first time, they were in unison on something. Shaking their heads, they began to think back to their own pasts. A few days later, Bai Xiaochun opened his eyes and hurried over to the copper mirror hanging on the wall in his immortal's cave. When he looked into the mirror, he saw a gaunt, pale figure. As far as he was concerned, his world was now a world of darkness. After a long moment, he sighed and prepared to go outside and get some fresh air. He needed to calm down and think of an idea of how to deal with the situation. It won't work for things to keep going on in this way. Their games are going to drive me to an early grave. Sighing, he pushed open the door of the immortal's cave and was just about to step outside when he suddenly went completely stiff. "You too." Sweat broke out on his forehead as he realized that standing right outside the door of the immortal's cave were Song Junwan and Hu Xiaomei. It was impossible to say when they had arrived, but there they stood, right next to each other, smiling at him. "Night Crypt, let's go for a walk," Song Junwan said, her eyes glittering charmingly. "Big bro Xiaochun, I won't make you name the birds this time," Hu Xiaomei said, blushing a bit and seeming more pure and charming than ever. And yet, the eyes of both women seemed to have inadvertently come to rest on his feet. Bai Xiaochun felt all the hair on his body stand up on end. By now, he realized the truth. These two demonesses had become addicted to toying with him. Their games had reached the point where even which foot stepped out of his immortal's cave first was a point of contention. This was ridiculous. These two demonesses weren't even human. Trembling visibly, he didn't dare to step outside. So, fancy meeting you two here, huh? I'm feeling a bit tired, I think I'll stay inside today." Forcing a smile onto his face, he began to back up. However, in that instant, a killing aura sprang up from Song Junwan, and as for Hu Xiaomei, her eyes began to fill with tears as she looked piteously at him. One seemed murderously angry, the other, wronged and maligned. Bai Xiaochun was on the verge of going mad. He was in such pain that he suddenly unleashed all of the spiritual power that he had carefully built up inside of himself. The chaotic power swept through him, causing blood to spray out of his mouth. Yet again, his vision went dark, and he collapsed. Before losing consciousness, he didn't sigh, but tears filled his eyes. 2 days later in the middle of the night, Bai Xiaochun lay on the stone bed, and his eyes slowly opened. Then, he lay there staring up at the ceiling, tears flowing down his temples. Back when it was Hu Xiaomei by herself, it was so great. She believed anything I said. But now, back when it was Song Junwan by herself, everything went my way. All I had to do was lose my temper a bit, and she would do anything I asked. But now, with both of them together, it's simply terrifying. As he thought back to how wonderful it had been to simply deal with them alone, more tears flowed. No, if things keep going on this way, I'm gonna end up dead. They're going to toy with me all the way to the grave, torment me to death. I'm already on the verge of going crazy. First was the medicine, then that bird. Next, they're trying to decide which foot I walk with. Before you know it, they're going to be watching to see which eye opens first, or which hand twitches. I can't stay around here any longer. These two demonesses are too terrifying. I've already coughed up blood twice. If this keep up, I could lose my poor little life. Trembling, face a mask of terror, he gritted his teeth. I need to join the war effort. On the battlefield, there's a chance I might get killed, but here, I'll definitely go crazy sooner or later. He suddenly felt more than ever like he truly wanted to join the war. In fact, his heart had already left the Luokan Mountains, he had no desire whatsoever to stay. He rose to his feet, his expression that of unswerving determination. He seemed different than he had moments ago, his veins of steel were pulsing, and his eyes shone with intense light. He quickly packed his bags, then quietly opened the door of the Immortal's cave. Sending his divine sense out first, he looked around the area. It was currently the middle of the night, and the moon was obscured by the clouds. Everything was pitch black, and silent except for the sounds of various night creatures and birds. He looked around vigilantly to make sure that Song Junwan and Hu Xiaomei weren't lying in wait. Then, he burst into motion, drawing upon all the speed he could muster, even using his wings. He became a beam of light that shot at top speed toward the two mountain peaks occupied by the Song clan Patriarch and Patriarch Ironwood. Fearful of attracting the attention of Song Junwan and Hu Xiaomei, he moved as fast as he could without actually making any noise in the process. Soon, he reached the two mountains, where he stopped in place and took a deep breath. His eyes shone with determination, and his expression was that of ultimate decisiveness. He suddenly seemed like a combination of both Bai Xiaochun and Night Crypt, heroic, extraordinary, and at the same time, formidable and ruthless. He seemed taller than before as he strode forward to the base of the twin peaks. Eyes shining with cold ferocity, he clasped hands and bowed. I am Legacy Echelon Disciple Bai Xiaochun of the Spirit Stream Sect, and Blood Master Night Crypt of the Bloodstream Sect. Greetings, Patriarchs. The Song clan Patriarch and Patriarch Ironwood slowly opened their eyes, and looked down in surprise at Bai Xiaochun. A murderous aura sprang up around Bai Xiaochun as he said, Stepfather, Patriarch, as the Blood Master of Middle Peak, and as a Legacy Echelon Cultivator of the Spirit Stream Sect, I must perform meritorious services. I must go to the battlefield to face the enemy. The Song clan Patriarch and Patriarch Ironwood had strange expressions on their faces. After a moment, the Song clan Patriarch said, I thought you hadn't recovered yet, Stepfather. A few injuries are like nothing when compared to the greater good of both sects. He smiled broadly, as if he didn't care at all about his injuries. At the same time, the determination in his eyes grew more intense. What cultivator can go through life without being injured? The important thing is the value of that injury. As for me, I was injured trying to protect our sects. He looked very heroic as he stood there uttering such words. Anyone who might have been able to see him would have been shocked. He seemed boundlessly righteous, a manly man as strong as iron and completely unafraid of dying. The battlefield is a dangerous place, and death is a common thing there. Aren't you afraid of that? Patriarch Ironwood asked softly. Bai Xiaochun laughed heartily. Smacking his chest casually, he said, I'm a true man. Blood will be spilled on the battlefield, that's true. But how could I simply stand by and watch my fellow sect members fighting in battle while I relax in comfort? That is not Bai Xiaochun's way of doing things, and it is definitely not Night Crypt's style. Patriarchs, there's no need for further discussion. I definitely want to join the war effort. His sonorous words were spoken with decisiveness that could sever nails and chop iron. Very well, the Song clan Patriarch said. That's exactly how a son of mine should act. He and Patriarch Ironwood exchanged a glance, then nodded. Tomorrow morning, you can take this teleportation medallion to the teleportation portal. It will take you to our garrison in the Profound Stream Sect region. Laughing heartily, the Song clan Patriarch waved his hand, sending a command medallion flying toward Bai Xiaochun. Bai Xiaochun grabbed the medallion and flashed a carefree smile. What's the point in waiting until tomorrow? My heart burns with the desire to kill the enemy. I can't sleep like that. I'll head to the teleportation portal immediately, and wade directly into battle. The time has come to put my life on the line for the sects. Flicking his sleeve, he transformed into a beam of light that shot directly toward the teleportation portal. Moments later, the light of teleportation shot up into the sky, illuminating the darkness of night. A single figure could be seen in the light, his hair whipping around him, radiating determination, righteousness, and at the same time, bloody murder. The Song clan Patriarch and Patriarch Ironwood laughed and looked at each other. Seeing the smiles on each other's faces, they realized at some point, they had come to admire each other a bit. The Profound Stream Sect was located on the Heavencraft continent, and bordered the Pill Stream Sect. Because of the years of warfare, the Heavencraft continent was in a very sorry state. Magical combat had left the land riddled with craters, and the explosions of spell formations left the spiritual power of the region in chaos. The entire place was a very dangerous location. Earlier on, the Profound Stream Sect had managed to gain the upper hand over the Pillstream Sect, and had even absorbed more than half of the other sect. However, because of the alliance between the Spirit Stream Sect and the Bloodstream Sect, the tide of the war had turned. At this point, internal conflict racked the Profound Stream Sect. That was especially true of the portion of the sect that had once belonged to the Pillstream Sect. In despair over the imminent destruction of their sect, they had defected. But now they hoped to become an auxiliary member of the Spirit Stream and Bloodstream sects, and as such, were resisting the Profound Stream Sect. Numerous mountains were in a state of collapse. Rivers had vanished off the face of the earth. Entire mountain ranges were gone. Countless cultivators and even entire clans were now nothing more than corpses and bones strewn about on smoking battlefields. Even the sky had been affected, it was now choked with smoke and ash. Then the Spirit Stream Sect and the Bloodstream Sect arrived, and the sky filled with blood clouds and dazzling white light. These two sects were only in the initial stages of joining forces, and even with Bai Xiaochun connecting them, it was still a very difficult process. After all, they had been enemies for many years, and the distrust between them was still very intense. Without the eruption of this war, the act of combining their sects would have been nothing more than a joke. Eventually, things would have fallen apart. However, with this war, they had a chance to truly unite. Fighting against a common enemy gave the disciples of the two sects a chance to slowly get used to each other. The Profound Stream sect hadn't really been prepared for a joint assault by the Bloodstream and Spirit Stream sects. What was happening was truly a nightmare. Before they even had time to smooth things out with the recently absorbed factions of the Pillstream sect, two new enemies had arrived, like razor-sharp blades slashing at the exposed back of the Profound Stream sect. In a few short months, the Profound Stream sect suffered heavy losses. More than 60% of the Heavencraft continent had already been occupied, and 17 of their temple headquarters had been sacked. Unlike most sects, the Profound Stream sect didn't have just one headquarters. They had a total of 29, spread out like a net throughout the Heavencraft continent. That was how they maintained their power on the continent. The initial invasion was now over, and every day, minor battles were fought all over the continent. Booms rang out everywhere, and the land quaked violently. Faced with the combined assault of the Spirit Stream sect and the Bloodstream sect, the Profound Stream sect could hardly even defend itself. They could only hide in their various temple headquarters and make their final stand. During the course of the fighting, one chosen after another gained valuable battle experience. They were like swords being sharpened into deadly weapons. Ghost Fong, Shangguan Tianyu, Zhou Xinqi, Gongsun Yun, Hu Yunfei, Lu Tinlei, Song Ke, Xu Zhaoshan, Jia Lai, Master God Diviner, and numerous other cultivators all made names for themselves on the battlefield. Although Shui Mei had not been present for the fight with the Spirit Stream sect, she was there on the Heavencraft continent. Considering that she was at the peak of Earthstring Foundation establishment, she had power that could shake the world. There was another person who made an unexpected name on the battlefield, taking down numerous enemies. Even other members of the sect came to fear her. She was none other than Gongsun Wan'er. Not a single cultivator in the same stage as her could match her in combat. She even won some battles against prime elders of the Profound Stream sect, striking awe into the hearts of the Bloodstream sect and the Spirit Stream sect alike. There were also chosen of the Profound Stream sect who made names for themselves. Nine Isles was one of them. He was much more mature than he had been years ago in the Fallen Sword Abyss. Considering how bitter the fighting was, his name became an inspiration to many Profound Stream sect disciples. There were chosen from the Pillstream sect as well. One of them was named Lin Mu, who cultivated the primeval medicinal Daoseed incantation. He had long since betrayed the Pillstream sect, though, and had been accepted as an apprentice by Patriarch Nine Heavens of the Profound Stream sect. He and Nine Isles were the shining stars of the Profound Stream sect, whose glory in battle dazzled anyone who saw them. Among the bedraggled remnants of the actual Pillstream sect was a young woman named Chen Manyao, whose skill with poison exceeded even the late Fang Lin's, and whose abilities with illusion forms surpassed Zhao Ru's. She even managed to have a protracted battle with a prime elder, and performed other great services for her sect in battle. The chosen were like stars glittering in the night sky, each one of whom had their own chance to shine in battle. However, there was one star that was only just now teleporting onto the battlefield. Everyone knew the name of that star. It was a name that couldn't be forgotten or overlooked. It was none other than Bai Xiaochun. Although he had yet to make a showing in the fighting itself, although he hadn't fought brilliantly in battle, although he hadn't killed numerous enemies or shed rivers of blood, he was a dazzling star that could not be compared to. His accomplishments were such that anyone who heard of them was completely shaken. The Blood Master of Middle Peak and Blood Lord of the Bloodstream sect. Legacy Echelon Cultivator and Junior Patriarch of the Spirit Stream sect. He had single-handedly stopped a huge war between two sects. He alone connected those two sects and convinced them to join forces. In fact, it was he alone who had unleashed the war of destruction upon the Profound Stream sect. Everyone had heard of him, and he existed in a spot above all other chosen. While the other chosen were still vying to make their name, he existed in a lofty position. The wave of his hand could completely change the tide of the war. Everyone who heard his story was completely shaken. Nine Isles roared in rage, his hatred for Bai Xiaochun burning bright and hot. As for Lin Mu, he went into secluded meditation for a few days after hearing the stories. When he emerged, he said that he had prepared a huge surprise for Bai Xiaochun. Although Bai Xiaochun hadn't been present for any of the fighting so far, his name still rang loud and clear in the ears of everyone on the battlefield. Somewhere on the border of the Heavencraft continent, in a location that had already been taken over by the Bloodstream sect and Spiritstream sect, in one of the former temple headquarters of the Profound Stream sect, the glittering light of a teleportation rose up into the sky. The cultivators stationed on duty by the teleportation portal looked at the light with vigilant eyes, ready to instantly attack if the wrong person appeared. Among the group were Baihan Lai, Master God Diviner, and Jia Lai. Considering that the three of them were grouped together separately from the other cultivators, it was obvious that they had a higher position. Given the levels of their cultivation bases, as well as their reputation, they should have been on the front lines of battle. However, after receiving grievous injuries in the fighting, all three had been reassigned to this location. None of them really liked each other, and it wasn't limited to Baihan Lai disliking the Bloodstream sect cultivators. Master God Diviner and Jia Lai also had a bit of a rivalry between them. Of course, such situations were common among frontline veterans. As the light of teleportation grew more intense, the eyes of the three cultivators glittered brightly. Master God Diviner was already performing a divination. Baihan Lai's eyes shone with cold light, whereas Jia Lai's eyes were narrowed, and the fluctuations of the great circle of Foundation establishment rolled off of him. Despite having been injured fairly seriously, he still commanded shocking power. Although people frequently teleported into this particular portal, the cultivators who guarded the area always reacted in this way. A month before, a group of Profound Stream sect cultivators had managed to teleport into the middle of Bloodstream sect territory and launch a surprise attack. As the light began to fade away, they realized that it was only a single individual who had teleported in. As his features became visible, the eyes of the surrounding cultivators went wide. Sect Uncle Bai, Blood Master Nightcrypt, everyone was crying out in shock. Jia Lai began to shake, Master God Diviner's jaw dropped, and Baihan Lai let out a cold harumph. After materializing, Bai Xiaochun stepped out of the teleportation portal and then looked around as the cultivators from the two sects offered formal greetings. Greetings, Junior Patriarch. Greetings, Blood Lord. At first, Bai Xiaochun looked a bit apprehensive. Glancing up into the blood-colored sky, he inhaled and detected the stench of blood in the air, confirming that he was indeed on the battlefield. Finally, he breathed a sigh of relief. At long last, he felt free again, as if he had finally extricated himself from a nightmare. Taking a deep breath, and putting a somber expression onto his face, he looked around at the surrounding cultivators, his eyes flashing like lightning. "What's the situation with the war?" he asked. His energy surged, and the surrounding disciples of the two sects looked at him with eyes that burned with zeal. Then, they began to report what had occurred recently in the fighting. Bai Xiaochun listened as they spoke, and soon had a basic understanding of the situation. It was at that point that a bright beam of light suddenly shot in their direction. It was one of the prime elders of the Spiritstream sect. He moved with such incredible speed that, within the blink of an eye, he was right in front of Bai Xiaochun. Bai Xiaochun had seen this particular prime elder before. The Patriarchs have issued orders. Junior Patriarch Bai Xiaochun is to lead a contingent of cultivators to sweep previously conquered territory and root out any stragglers from the Profound Stream sect. Any other matters which come up along the way can be handled as you see fit, as long as you don't waste any time. Bai Xiaochun immediately understood that he was being given a relatively safe and easy mission, not an assignment to the front lines of battle. Obviously, most clans in the conquered territories would be friendly, and any stragglers from the Profound Stream sect would be weak and unimportant. Clearly, this mission had been specifically created just for him. Although Bai Xiaochun felt very appreciative, his expression was solemn and respectful, and his eyes shone with intense light as he said, "I'm afraid I can't comply." Thus, this episode comes to an end. Remember to like and comment so we can discuss the story together. Until we meet again in the next chapters.